Survival games. It's a genre that has existed almost as long as the FPS genre as a whole, and it's one that most gamers are more than just familiar with. Sadly, for the last few years, the genre has been in a steep decline, and has been nothing but a cesspool of poorly made, early access Unity games, often lackluster in appearance, depth, replayability, and character. The most magnificent game to come out of the survival genre would have to be Minecraft, but I wouldn't even call that a survival game anymore. It hasn't been one since they added redstone, and people all over the world began automating every resource in the game, building complexes and computers and creations that transcend reality. There are a few games of the genre that have struck a chord in the hearts of millions. The Forest, Project Zomboid, Green Hell, Rust, The Long Dark, Don't Starve. But there is one game that does more than all of these, and it's called Eco. It is a survival game by definition, but it approaches what it means to survive in a completely different way. The survival genre has always been a story of man versus the jungle, man versus hordes of zombies, man versus the unforgiving long winters of the Canadian wilderness, even man versus man. But Eco brings it to a whole new level, man versus annihilation. In Eco, you aren't surviving from some unrelenting horde of enemies or the ruthlessness of Mother Nature. No, the only real goal presented in Eco is to prolong the inevitable destruction of your planet. Man versus the universe. When you open Eco, you're met with a start screen showing a landscape of monolithic skyscrapers and office buildings, all connected by roads and bridges, with players going about their day, trucks whizzing by in the foreground of the scene. Everything you see here seems like an insurmountable task for a single player in your standard survival game, and you will soon realize that Eco is so much more. After clicking the New Game button, a collection of different menus of servers appear, each one describing the skill level recommended, elucidating the difficulties you'll face, as well as the amount of expected collaboration required between players. I forgot to mention that Eco is almost an exclusively multiplayer game. You didn't think you were going to be able to stop an apocalypse on your own, did you? No, this game is the definition of teamwork. More than that, real societal collaboration. Governments, economics, science and technology, labor forces, and logistics, and all of it's in real time. Yeah, so every time you want to craft something, it takes time, anywhere from 5 seconds to a few hours depending on what you want to make. Anyway, you pick a server, and you're plopped right into a vast open terrain of rivers, jungles, oceans, deserts, woodlands, mountains, a real ecosystem, with plants and animals of different biospheres that all coexist and call the little planet you stand on home. So you make the only logical choice. Drain all of the life out of the planet and extract all of its natural resources. The world is yours for the taking. Nature is no match for your colonialism, pollution, extinction, over-industrialization, nothing but buzzwords. So onwards to progress. You see, that's how things get bad. So, you feeling hungry? You decide you want to hunt too many rabbits to supply meat for your taco stand? Well, the population of wolves is going to go down because they're all going to starve. Then who's hunting all the deer? Next thing you know it, you've run over a dozen deer on your way to town, and the whole ecosystem is out of whack. Okay, then farming. Let's just farm a calorie-dense food like tomatoes to feed you and your friends, until the nutrients in the soil are completely depleted and all you can farm are rocks. Okay, forget farming. I'm sure someone else can figure that out. Time to build a machine. Okay, what about a steam-powered cart? Okay, how do you do that? Find a suitable or rich location and start mining for iron and coal. Take that iron to a smelter, and it'll turn them into bars. Bars that your local blacksmith can forge into all kinds of trinkets and parts. A firebox, a boiler, some mechanical components for the engine. Seems like we're missing something. Oh yeah, the entire cart. Okay, time to find a forest, full of trees, ready to be cut down by the blade of technological progress. Bring the logs to a carpenter who can turn them into planks, lumber, a seat for the cart, and most importantly, the wheels. Bring everything to your local engineer, give him a couple tacos and all the parts you worked so hard to gather and make, and he will build you the wood-powered Iron Age cart of your dreams. The only problem, you've now decimated an entire landscape in your pursuit of three-wheeled happiness. The eyesore of a mine you made out of a once majestic mountain, the waste tailings you've generated by refining and smelting the ore that have turned all the lakes and rivers in your vicinity into a nice shade of Dr. Pepper brown, the forest you deforested, leaving animals, birds, and plants without shade and shelter from the elements, all for a glorified tricycle. Are you happy now? Okay, then why not just give up? Build a happy little log cabin out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, living off whatever you can forage, just living at your means, and not an inch above. Well, that's when I would strongly urge you to look up. There is a meteor encircling the globe, staring you down with a harsh, planet-killing grimace. You have two options. Embrace your inevitable, pathetic demise, or put on your big boy pants. Grab a hammer and embark on a gaming experience you will never forget. Welcome to Eco. Collaboration is one of, if not the most important aspect of this game. It's not as simple as, I give you this, you give me that, I borrow your stuff when you're not looking, you get the gist. Okay, think about what it takes to make a house. Not a shack made from sticks glued together with animal fat, all on top of a foundation of pebbles and sand. No, like a real house. Brick walls, glass windows, wood floors, a couple of chairs, table and a bed. Really, it doesn't sound like much, and in the grand scheme of things, it's really not. But have you thought about the nails and fittings hammered into every floorboard and door frame? Nails that had to be hand-forged from iron mined and smelted in faraway lands? Well, you're no blacksmith, so you better find one if you want somewhere to stand. Have you ever thought about what it takes to make a brick? Like, seriously, just one brick. Have you ever tried to make a brick? I have, but I'm sure most of you haven't, which is why you're going to need to be really good friends with someone who's been researching masonry, because you're going to need a lot of bricks. What about your bed? You're also going to have to know a tailor, someone who can go out and gather wool and cotton and weave it into perfectly symmetrical bed sheets and pillows to complete your comfy little home. And that's just the beginning. All of this is starting to sound like a lot of work. Not even the making of stuff and what have you. I mean the trading, collaborating with others to get the resources you need. I mean, what are you providing to the rest of society to make all their efforts worth it? This is the fun part. The best way to figure out what your profession, or specialization, as it's called in the game is by analyzing the needs of your fellow pioneers in your area. Literally go talk to your neighbors and ask what they need most. And if one of them has already decided that he's going to do carpentry, one of them wants to make bricks and pottery, another one wants to be an engineer once technology progresses a little further, you can be a blacksmith or smelter, turning ore into metal for nails for the carpenter, tools for the mason, and metal parts and fittings for the engineer. And with your new friends, you can exchange your goods and services to get what you need, while also helping them establish themselves in the world. It's a win-win. Until it's not. Maybe one of your friends becomes slightly unfriendly about how he's helped you more than you've helped him, but you disagree, arguing the complete opposite. Well, this is a whole new problem. How do you solve a problem like this? How do you numerically value labor and goods? Any guesses? Yes, exactly. By numerically valuing labor and goods. Money. Cost-benefit analysis? Capitalism? Value influences? What does all of this mean? Well, by building a shop at your home base, you can create your own system of trade and currency, where neighbors can supply you with resources, plus a little bit extra for profit, and you can provide them with the goods that only your specialization can produce. If you want to be a glass worker, you could set up your shop to accept specific quantities of sand in return for your currency, and for a tiny bit more currency, sell finished glass panes. The customer gets glass, and you get extra materials to make your own glass that you didn't have to work for. Everybody wins. This does, however, present another problem. Every time someone wants glass, they have to spend a decent chunk of time out in the middle of the desert shoveling sand, because the only way they can get glass is by purchasing it with your currency at your shop. Do you see the issue? If you wanted to go buy wooden planks, mortared stone, and iron bars, you'd have to spend a ton of time and labor moving from the forest to chop wood, the quarry to collect stone, and the mines to gather ore, then independently delivering each of the resources to their respective shops. It's an inefficient and annoying process. So, let's solve this problem. Let's fix the economy we just created by establishing a common currency. But to do that, we would have to decide whose currency is most effective and useful. Another problem. How do we decide who gets what, who becomes responsible for this and that, and who does things others can't or don't want to do? We could flip a coin, or we could vote. The next step in growing the bustling economy and collaborative industry you've created together is establishing a government. Can you still believe we're talking about a video game? Now, governments in this game are technically optional, as you may find it rather easy to compromise with your neighbors. But in the case that your neighbor is a bit of a dickhead, a government where citizens from your area can vote on issues that need addressing can be pretty useful. And although I haven't personally delved too deep into the government system of the game, I would be flat out lying if I said it wasn't worth at least a mention. Whether you're spreading awareness about the guy that's leaving wheelbarrows in the middle of the road, or figuring out who's going to build the roads in the first place, the government system can be a wonderful proxy for almost any issue imaginable. Just like in real life, an issue that people want to be addressed is brought to a government official after the government and its constitution have been created, after a capital has been constructed. The law or constitutional amendment is then validated in the election office, then sent to the ballot box, where citizens can vote on the issue, law, or amendment. And just like that, you've done it. You've established a common currency, and with your government in order, all your citizens can now unite under the threat of total annihilation and begin working towards a planetary defense system. The engineers of the world can work to set up oil rigs to produce crude oil, which can be refined into gasoline, petroleum, plastics, and a multitude of other valuable resources. The gasoline can then also power cars constructed at factories that can transport those other goods from factories to towns, supplying a modern-age industrial boom, which will result in the construction of power plants, higher quality food for everyone, housing and facilities, all of which increase the efficiency of the workforce and the work done, speeding up technological research and progress worldwide. Finally, you and your fellow pioneers gather in the main computer room of the global defense system you worked so painstakingly hard to construct. And after 30 real-time days of mining, farming, cooking, researching, hammering, machining, after it's all said and done, you and your friends get to push the big red button that ends the looming threat of cataclysm for good. Let's just hope that you didn't ruin the planet in the process. There is so much more to this game that it would take me hours to give a true in-depth guide. I mean, I am just barely scratching the surface here. Skill trees and research, food quality and housing quality, and how it all pertains to the amount of skill points you receive per day and the efficiency of your work, tool durability and calorie burn, the statistical analysis of different types of pollution, and the effect that your production has on the environment around you, it just goes deeper and deeper. And the reason I think this game is so important, especially in today's society, for our generation, is because an average person can play through one full cycle of this game, off and on, only an hour or two here and there, and still come out with a much richer understanding of scientific processes, civics, trade, and ecology. Without really trying, this game has become a tool for teaching. Even the US Department of Education saw its value and realized how important this game could be to coming generations, and began funding development back in 2015. Yeah, that's right, this game is funded by the US government.
Oh my god, bro.
It raises awareness about global warming and the negative impact humans have on the environment, and it does so in an excellently corporeal way. With every decision you make, you see the direct impact it has on the world and people around you. It's wonderful. It also shows how powerful we can be when we work together, when we build off each other's achievements to create something beautiful, and achieve the impossible. It demonstrates time as a tangible resource, a resource that trickles away as you scramble to find a solution. It's more than a survival game, and to me, it's more than a game. It's just something more. While this game is far from being a masterpiece with its subpar graphics, charming but minuscule soundtrack, and let's be honest, terrible wildlife AI and animations, it could be amazing. It's currently in early access and has been for the last 6 years, but there are many game-changing updates planned in the game's roadmap that could earn Eco a place in the history books. It's inspired me to pursue science and experiment on my own in real life, in my garage and my backyard, and it's encouraged me to learn more about the world our ancestors have built for us. And I hope it inspires you too. So get out there. Go change the world.